self-explanatory.
So how do you feel about it?
I don't have any emotion towards it. Again, like all the stuff, like I'm used to it.
Okay.
It's very whatever she said, the teacher. It's right there in the sentence. No drive time to the job because of how you look or because of So it's like
Okay.
Yeah, it's similar. Yeah, it's like it's in the sentence. They obviously, they know what they mean. They obviously know what they meant to say, and I'm not sure why they would say that. Like, why can't someone draw attention like to themselves? Like, why would you say, "Oh, don't do it"? Like, I don't know. It's just interesting.
All right.
How did you feel about the event that occurred on November 9, 2023?
I think it was very disturbing for one. I never experienced anything like it. I've seen it on social media, like similar events, but to experience it like firsthand and live, it was disturbing. It was like unreal, like, to have something like that happen in the space that like I go to school, I'm coming to school to get an education, and then, my day is disrupted by such just disturbing events. It was really no words could really describe my shock, for how disgusting everything was. So, yeah, it was terrible.
Okay. Have you ever witnessed a racist comment from admin? And if so, how did you feel?
Yeah, I did actually. Just recently, I dropped my law class because my teacher, he's known to be I guess misogynistic, or I use the word misogynoir, because me being a Black student definitely and no doubt has an effect on the way he grades me, and I'm so sure of that, because it's I'm doing assignments the same as everyone else, even probably even better, but because of his bias or prejudice for me, I don't know if he's just grading on appearance, grading on just who he likes, and I feel like I don't want my grade to be based on who you like grade me based on my work, grade me based on my skills and what I can actually bring to the class and what I can actually do, not my appearance. So I dropped the class because I didn't want to have that affect my average and my future just because you don't like the way I look. So.
Do you call admin out on comments, racial or not?
Do I? Never, before the situation.
Why?
I guess it was what's the point? We're not listened to, and if you don't have a big community to, bring forth the same complaints, it's literally gonna get nowhere. You'll get brushed off. So I didn't see that there was a point, so I didn't.
How have you felt about your 4 years at Colonel Leisure?
I mean, it's been rough. I've been here since grade 10, but even still, it's been a little rough. I mean, for the most part, I get through my day, doing work, going to class. But I feel like when it comes to Black students, yeah, it's definitely a problematic community for us. And not only the current principal, but even previous principals. I feel like there's been the same problem every year. So, yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna give you a comment about what a teacher has said to a student and tell me how you feel about it. This is a life lesson.
About the situation?
Yep.
That happened.
How do you feel about that? How do you feel about the comment?
I feel like, why does our trauma have to be a life lesson, to other students? Why does something like this have to happen for it to be a life lesson? for it to be a lesson, you know? Like, these are real people experiencing real discrimination and real racism. It's not a TV show. This is not a lesson, it's real life. I feel like that's a very weird comment.
Thank you. First question, how do you feel when an admin has a performative ally act?
What do you mean by that?
Like when they try to just, I guess.
Oh, fake it?
Yeah.
It just makes me feel like everybody's a genuine, and it reflects upon like the school overall, in my opinion. Like, and because of that, like I will never go to a class assuming that a teacher or admin is like an ally. Like I will never do that. So it makes me, I guess, change the way that I approach my teachers as far as like my attitude towards them. Like I won't be maybe as playful as I would with somebody who I'm more comfortable with, right? Or it would just change how I approach my relationship with my teacher.
Okay. How has your experience as a Black student been at this school?
It's been interesting. I think that I'm one of the people that's, I guess, kind of lucky to fly under the radar in a sense, because like a lot of the things that a lot of my peers have experienced, I personally haven't experienced. But I have experienced like microaggressions and things of that nature. Even, not even just that, but like even in class sometimes I'll feel like just Black history overall is just excluded. And even in like some of my classes, like just, I guess the pretending like some certain things don't exist, right? Certain structures don't exist. And it's the reality of the world we live in, but I guess excluding it from the curriculum, it just makes like a false narrative that these students will believe because these are teachers, right? That it's just how it's supposed to be in school.
Okay. Do you call admin out on comments racial or not?
No. No, it's bad, but I feel like they hold my future in their hands.
Mm-hmm.
And even as much as I want to, as much as I would like make a face, what did you just say? Like, can you say that? I'm not gonna say anything because I know that that teacher will, like, that's the difference between like a 90 and an 80, right? And I need an 80 in that class to boost my average, so I know that I'm not gonna like necessarily challenge a teacher because I want that teacher to like me.
Okay. How did you feel about the event that occurred on November 9th, 2023, and how has it impacted you?
I was conflicted. I felt like and my main thing was I didn't want to rush anything as far as like protests and things like that. I didn't want to rush anything because at the time, like for me personally, I wasn't there, so I didn't know all the facts, right? And at first I was just kind of like silent about it, and I just like, okay, I really don't know what happened from just hearing like a lot of things, and some things that really didn't even happen, and it was just all a lot of confusion. But I think that we had a meeting about it, we had a meeting about it, and it gave me a lot of clarity as to what exactly happened, even though we haven't seen the video or anything. But it gave me a lot of clarity as to what happened, and then from there I was like, oh no, like this is not okay. And honestly, I'm not gonna say I didn't feel safe, but I can see why a lot of people wouldn't feel safe in an environment like this. Because again, like I said, I'm kind of like one of those people that fly under the radar. Like I'm not really, I guess, picked out by teachers a lot of the time. So I wouldn't say that I felt scared personally, but I can understand why a lot of my peers did.
I'm going to give you a comment about what the teacher has said to a student and tell me how you feel about it. I feel like you're gaining a lot.
I think they're victimizing themselves. And I have a feeling, even though I don't know what context it's taken in, they were probably being confronted about something and they appreciate being called out on their BS or whatever, and they felt like they needed to kind of back up out of the situation instead of saying, okay, well, what did I do wrong, right? And taking accountability. And it seems to be a common theme amongst teachers in the school or just admin in general, not taking accountability for your actions. We don't want your pity, we don't want your sympathy, we just want you to take accountability and change, right?
Okay.
That's it? I agree.
So now at this time, we're going to open the floor for questions to the panel. So the first question is, what did the Black Student Alliance at Cardinal Leger Secondary School share about their experience in the school at their BSA meeting on November 21st?
I feel like when we shared our experiences, there was a lot of underlying resentment to what happened and sadness, but we never really got to talk about it because it happened really quickly. When we got together and spoke about it on November 21st, I feel like it was long awaited. It needed to happen before that, and I feel like all the students felt that way, who are in BSA, who are not in BSA. So I feel like that really shows what kind of experience, like what happened.
Yes, so in BSA we have held about a meeting or two where students were free to open up about how they feel about this whole situation that occurred. And what everyone was basically, like the bottom line, everyone's expressing how they felt is just hurt and unsafe, because about 80% of the school population is children, right? There's teachers, but it's just mostly children. So the top priority should be the children. And with us not being aware of police officers being there and the way a minor was handled was unacceptable. So everyone feels hurt and unsafe there.
Sorry, I feel like we forgot to talk about what actually happened in regards to what we're here to really talk about today. So I'm gonna just open the floor to Taya to speak about what actually happened on November 9th.
So I was there firsthand. I witnessed everything from beginning to the end. Essentially, the main thing happened around 9:40 to about like 9:51. There was a heated argument in the cafeteria regarding two minors, two Black minors, along with some other kids. It was the two girls just arguing with other girls. They're just in different grades essentially, and then they kind of separated. But there was a teacher there. There was already a teacher there, and he paged to our principal and said that there was a fight in the cafeteria. At that moment, the principal and the undercover police officer came running out of the office. Heated, very, very heated. I witnessed both of their faces. Our principal was just yelling at the girl to go to the office and just to calm down. And then the police officer was telling her to shut up. At which point she wasn't listening, because I don't think anybody really understood what was going on at that moment. The officer really didn't understand anything. I would just say the officer came on the scene and she did not feel the need to de-escalate it. There was no de-escalation, and she just came on the scene and she did not announce herself. She did not de-escalate the situation. She never asked if everyone was okay. She never asked who was who. She just came on the scene and she was very heated. After she seen that she wasn't getting her way with the first girl, she decided to move on to the second girl. I was holding back one of the girls from even doing any like type of fighting. There was no fight, it was really just an argument. After the officer had run over to the other girl, she turned her around, and at which point she said, "Don't touch me." And then she went back to her argument, and then the officer turned her back, and then after she shoved her hand in her face and hit her. And then at which point she doesn't know who she is, and because she's very heated and everything it's a click. There's stuff in your brain that just clicks off, which nobody understood, but there was a click in her head that happened, and she just started fighting her because she didn't know who she was and why she's touching her and why did she just hit her in her face. So then after that, they both start fighting, and another girl jumps in because she's trying to help her. And then there was just a bunch of kids just in the circle, in the mix, just trying to pull the officer off of her, trying to help. At which point the fight lasted about 15 seconds. Yeah, 15 seconds, and then I managed to pull her up. She went outside to just calm down because she was just tired. And then the officer, she gets up. I could see her face. She has like a bloody nose. She was okay, but she had a bloody nose. But she went outside. She went to go cool down. I went outside. I followed her, and at which point I called her mom. Her mom was already on her way. And what happened prior to was the fact that they were told that they had a suspension, but there was no suspension notice. Like, they got the suspension notice November 9th. Which at what point they were already at the school, so they could have been given that the day before when they already had a previous altercation, but everybody failed to do anything. Then yeah, after they went outside, I called her mom, and her mom was on her way. She was just calming down. I was just trying to get her to calm down, and then the officer comes outside and she was like, "You're under arrest." And I was like, "What is she under arrest for? And who are you? Like, I don't know who this woman is." And her sister then comes out, and they're just both trying to like calm down. They're just breathing. They're trying to take time. There's no de-escalation. Like, everybody's still in fumes. Everybody's still in flames. So I move her to a different part, and the officer is on the phone. And then after, she was just calming down. She was at a point where she was slightly calm. I wouldn't say that she's completely calm. She's still she's still going through everything that just had happened. And within that, like 3 minutes of just us being outside, there was about a squad car, about 12 cars, 30 police officers rushing up on the scene, storming, everybody's running up at us, and we're like, oh my gosh. And our principal is on the stairs, and she has her phone out, she's recording. And then after, our principal is telling the officers like who did what and who needs to go. Okay, yeah. The officers come rushing at us, and nobody asked what happened. Nobody asked any de-escalation. No, nothing. Like, everything was just very hostile, and we were just trying to like get the officers to understand what was going on, and we just wanted to speak to them and speak to them calmly. And nobody wanted to do that. Nobody was in their like the right mind to even think, oh, let me try to calm down some three kids, some minors. Let's calm them down, because this is very traumatizing. Within 2 minutes, she's pinned down on the floor, George Floyd. The other girl, they're telling one girl to sit in a puddle, and they're over here pushing every one of us. They're touching us. We told them that they don't have our consent. They said that's not how that works. They handcuffed the one. They put her in the car. We're now at the other car. They slammed their mom's car door, and we're like, that's not your property. They did not care. Then they finally got to the point where they were calming down, and if everything happened the way that like it happened, if everything happened calmly and there was a de-escalation, she would have abided. Like, she would have went gracefully. She would have just, as long as the situation was clear, it was not. The second child, she went fine. She was okay. They said that they had to arrest her. But what really got me was I recorded the whole thing. There was a part where there was 3 officers, I think, speaking to us, and there was it's a white officer who has like ginger hair, and he was just asking, like who needs to be arrested, but he was targeting this one, like their cousin, like he was targeting their cousin, and he was like, oh, she needs to be arrested, and then the next female officer comes up, and she was like, oh, she was never in this, she needs to, like she wasn't in it, she's just getting suspended from school, which was very racist to me, because he just immediately thought, he just kind of went there that everybody was involved, everybody was starting to everybody needs to be arrested and just go in a cop car, which kind of threw me off. But then the mother and the other daughter were issued trespasses, and then they went to the police station. I will let Naima tell you what was happening on the inside of the building.
Okay, so while we were inside, we watched the incident happen. Me and Faith and another girl, we watched what happened and we tried to record the situation. The guidance counselor and two VPs weren't gonna like block the windows and said that you guys are not allowed to record, please give her dignity. Which we responded, what dignity is there when there are 3 police officers on her as if she was a man, as if she was like 400 pounds and there was a need to have like 3 officers on her. We asked her what dignity is there, and we are allowed to record when there's situations with police regarding us. They said that they're there to help, the police officers are there to help, and they didn't understand our frustration and our pain regarding police officers and Black students. Nonetheless, like, we're teenagers, we're children, 17, 15, and 14. Like, we are not of the age where you can treat us like that. We're not animals, and that's how they treated her and her sister and everyone else who was involved. They didn't let us record, but we still recorded, and they said that they would be contacting our parents, or we need to delete those videos, which was honestly shocking. Not shocking or surprising, but disappointing, because at that school, there's equity classes, and there's like a Black creative writing, and there's things that are helping us, and we can see that there's teachers wanting to help, but the guidance, vice principals, principal, it seems like their activism or their allyship is performative towards us.
Also, I would like to note, while she was being pinned down there was 4 officers in her back, 2 in her head. She was crying out for her mom. She was just screaming for bloody murder. She was crying out for her mother. But after she went into the cop car, the cuffs were really tight. They took her back out and they just uncuffed her for a second, and after we placed her back in the car. After they were taken to the police station, and it took them 7 hours to process a piece of paperwork, which they got released at about 3 o'clock, so 9 to 3, this all occurred. After that, we went immediately to the hospital. From the hospital, 3 to 5, 2 hours, they said that she was fine. As soon as she steps outside the hospital, she has a seizure. I recorded the seizure because it was just evidence for me, and the hospital told me I could not record. I still continue to anyways, because there's no way that you're going to tell me anything. And then she went back in the hospital, and she ended up being in there for about 5 more hours until like 10 o'clock. And that's when we all went home. She was scared to step out of her house for about 2 weeks. She couldn't leave her house. She was sad. They were all traumatized. Her sister, everybody in the family has been struggling. These are very God-fearing women. They go to church every Sunday. And the fact that this had happened to them, I weep and I feel very sad, because they're very close to me. They are my cousins. I've been raised with them. And witnessing this firsthand, you would never ever think that this would happen to you, and that it plays in your head like a movie, basically. And the fact that it happened hurts, and it's very triggering, but I can't say that this is life because it shouldn't be happening. But here we are.
I just wanted to clarify that the police officer was a plainclothes police officer and did not identify themselves when they were in the building. That is a key factor, because I'm sure there's nobody who wakes up, and she had her gun on her as well. But I would just like to say, I don't think that there's anybody in their right mind, especially a Black student, a Black child, who wakes up in the morning and says, I'm gonna beat up a police officer. Nobody wakes up in the morning and decides that they're gonna go to school and see a police officer and beat them up. So obviously there is an issue where the police officer did not identify themselves and make it known to the students that they were in a position of authority outside of the school, because for one, they're not supposed to be in the school unless they're identifying themselves or in uniform. So they're not identifying the fact that they are in a position of authority outside of the school, and that is the main reason why any student, any child would feel the need to fight back. Because me personally, I'm not going to let anybody put their hand in my face or touch me in any way and not defend myself. But the response that I have would be completely different if I knew who the person was and what kind of position they could play in my freedom, in my life, literally in my life. So I would just like to clarify that it was a plainclothes police officer and that the police officer had no right to be in the school, for one, without identifying themselves, and for two, involving themselves in a situation like that without the right training to de-escalate the situation. And on top of that, involve themselves without identifying themselves and then continuing to put their hands on students without the students knowing who they are. So with that being said, I just wanted to read off some of the feedback from some students, some of the Black students, I'd like to clarify that, after this incident. So here are some of the questions that the students have asked. Why was there an undercover / peace officer here at the school?
Also note, I asked the sergeant as to why she was there undercover in plain clothes. They said that if there is an imminent danger that she's supposed to be there. I was told that she parked in the chapel parking lot across from our school, and that she's basically there for danger. But what my principal had told me was that they were just having a regular conversation in her office, and she was just there for a chat. So yeah, they blatantly lied. And we asked her what danger, and we asked the sergeant what danger there was. They refused to give an answer. They did not give an answer. There is no answer, actually. She was just there.
To continue, some of the other feedback is we are feeling unsafe as there's unfair treatment of Black students at the school. A teacher went on a rampage using racist language within a classroom setting. There are teachers using the N-word in the class, and we are made to feel less than others. Teachers need to be held accountable. We are seen as a target. We worry about our marks. Should we challenge the teacher? We feel caught off guard with microaggression comments and are not sure how to respond. A student was crying, expressing that no one understands the lived experiences we go through every day. There is a certain view that the teachers have of us and they don't understand us. There is no connection with teachers because we don't look like them. A teacher mentioned after the incident that this is a life lesson while a student was crying. There is no empathy from teachers. We are supposed to feel safe, and we have to come to school and just take things with a grain of salt, as some teachers are power tripping. Some Black students are referred to in a way like monkeys. A student was harassed in the class, and the teacher, when asked to deal with it, had no response. Some teachers will say things to mask their racism. There was a reference to Black students as thugs. Teachers will not see when kids are crying and show empathy. There is this behavior from teachers to sweep things under the rug, and Black students have to create a scene just to be heard. There is a narrative that we Black students only resort to violence and we are criminalized, followed by police involvement. Teachers put us in a box. We are uncertain why tears are being shed by teachers who are not Black, as it doesn't make sense to us as to why when they don't feel what we feel. The police don't de-escalate these situations. They're supposed to use verbal de-escalation, and that did not happen on November 9th.
The students do not know the youth officer who came into the school, and they feel that the principal let things get out of control, and we don't really feel that she's there for us Black students. We want to feel that they see our experiences and protect us. There is a false narrative regarding the media report, and we are so confused why the facts weren't stated as it happened, and we are concerned with how the police are being portrayed as a victim, and the students are being portrayed as the aggressor in the media. There is no concern about Black students and the trauma that occurred to them. November 22nd, during our first lunch, we are frustrated that there was a lot of talking from the principal, and we are confused about how she shares her anger with them when she cannot feel the similar experience. A student commented, "I feel the school is becoming ghetto because there are a lot of first start decisions and kids are coming to this school instead of other schools, and people in the community are looking down on their school, including our peers. We have observed that most of the problems are coming from the white kids smoking in the bathroom and that they are not really getting into trouble and it's being minimized. Other racialized students get fined when incidents that occurred. One student commented, "I was scared about what was going on inside the cafeteria and why did the officer put their hands on the students? We want things given back to us when we make requests with the principal. We want the principal to listen and to take action and also just take a step back and don't talk so much about her achievements."
We want the admin teachers to unlearn and then relearn because there is still a wall up between us, Black students, and the rest of the staff/admin. We feel as Black students, we are beneath the staff. A student commented she experiences many microaggressions and there is a lot of judgment, especially on appearance. Misogyny experienced as a Black student that occurred with the teacher, and the student dropped the course because she did not want her grades to be affected. The staff perpetuate stereotypes and they also prioritize the needs of students of non-Black identities. We as Black students are always concerned about how challenging the teacher is reflected in our marks. We feel the teacher's authority have abused their authority, and we feel that teachers have egos and are power tripping at times. We would like for admin/teachers to admit when they are wrong and provide an apology on an individual basis as it helps the relationship move forward in a positive manner. There has been no apology after the fact, and we as Black students are still left in the dark.
A teacher told a student that other jobs he applied for, Black people were taking up spaces he wanted. He called it reverse racism. She did not want to challenge him because she didn't want to mess with her grades. She didn't want to speak off to teachers that are standoffish. She has seen Black students' eyes water, angry, seeing others crying regarding the incident. There's a disconnect from teachers on how Black students see the event. The schools talked about providing a counselor immediately for the situation which was happening in Ukraine, but it took them 2 weeks to get us a guidance counselor or a support counselor to help us. I feel as the principal demonstrates fake allyship as she would take credit for setting up a speaker event. I feel very upset, but I try to stay focused on my academics, but I still feel bad and it's bothering me. There needs to be a change systemically in the board. Why not penalize the officer? Why are the board people involved in communications to the media when they weren't here to see what happened? The email sent to the parents was upsetting, wrong, and provided false narrative. And then from there, social media posts and many other false narratives that students are beginning to believe. Nothing went right. Everything was in a state of chaos. There was no de-escalation occurred, and why was that not the first thing to do?
Now we're going to move on to the second question. Are all of these examples and experiences from students shared freely, or were any of the students coerced or manipulated into what was just shared?
Yes, all the examples and experiences were shared very freely. It was a very safe space. There was 2 Black administrators, I want to say, counselors. Yeah, there was 2 Black counselors and a teacher that was present, which made the students feel very safely. And because we were all speaking about our experiences, it opened up the floor for other students to share. So we all felt very comfortable. We all had a lot to say, and it was very powerful and it was very impactful. So there was a lot of understanding. And there was a lot of connecting, and there was a lot of wrongdoings that you could see that was being done between the school.
Some of the incidents, teachers saying racist comments, they were talked about in class. Like, did I hear that right? Like small microaggressions or macroaggressions that were kind of disguised as microaggressions. And a lot of us, I know for one of the teachers, one of my experiences, one of the teachers did say that he felt black people were taking up jobs in physics areas. And to me, I didn't know what to say about that because he did handle my grades and I didn't want to get a bad grade. And he's known for like having favoritism. So there's certain things like that would, like, certain students would be like, did I hear that right? And not be able to speak up about it because they are afraid about their academics and they are afraid that there will be backlash or kind of like blackballed against other teachers once they hear that you stood up for yourself, and then there's other issues with other teachers.
Now, I'd just like to say that it's not just the white teachers who are expressing these aggressions towards the students. It's not always the white teachers. More times, even when I was still at Cardinal AJ, I've seen a lot more allyship within the white teachers than I did with people of minorities. So it's not just the white teachers who are expressing these aggressions. Sometimes it is also people of other minorities who forget that they are a minority and they just, I guess they get in over their heads, and because they're friends with the administrators, the principal, they start to kind of, They start to, I wouldn't say, the word that I'm looking for is they start to mimic what they see in the administrators with the students. And I just think that's very important to share because a lot of the times we forget that it's not just non-minorities who are expressing aggression towards us or prejudice towards us. Sometimes it is also minorities who don't see us. They think that we're less than them as well. So we also need to speak on that. We need to stop just, putting it on people who are not of a minority, because it's not just them. And even sometimes as Black people, as a community, we're not nice to each other. We are a part of our own problem. We only want to come together when it's time to, go against people who are not minorities, but we don't really look at the fact that a lot of the times, a lot of the stereotypes that are within the Black community are placed on us by one another. These are things that come from us. The ghetto-ness, let's talk about it, colorism. Let's talk about colorism. Colorism. A lot of the times, let's talk about it in interracial dating or just dating in general. A lot of the stereotypes when it comes to Black women being very aggressive, they're ghetto, it comes from Black men who have Black mothers, Black fathers, Black sisters, Black aunts. So us as a community, we have to do better. We have to do better if we want to see the change come from others, because the stereotypes that we set for ourselves, they're just being repeated. They're looking at us and they're seeing what we say about each other and they're just piggybacking off of it. So we also need to take the need out of our own eye and take a step back and think about what we're doing wrong as a community and start to work within ourselves and work with one another instead of putting each other down. And then when it comes down to address the white man, now all of a sudden, we're all standing together, Black Lives Matter. Of course, Black Lives Matter, but do you care about the people in your own household? Do you care about the people in your own community when it comes down to it? Are you degrading the people within your own community? So I feel like that's very important to touch on. We cannot just blame other people, because people see us and they just take what we say and they just turn it around and use it and throw it in our face and use it as a way to disrespect us. Because obviously if we're saying it about one another, it must be true. If we're saying it about one another, it must be true. So we have to start somewhere, and the change starts with us as well as a people. So the next question is, as a member of your school's BSA, what are some of your concerns being a Black student at your school or in the Dufferin Peel Catholic District School Board as a whole?
Okay, so
As the leader, or one of the leaders at our school's BSA, I always prioritize just making sure like everyone, like kids in general, were okay. But just as a Black student in general, from the first grade, I've experienced a lot, specifically regarding racism with teachers. So I understand how it is with how everyone just expresses themselves and like with things they've been through. So being a part of this club, I really took it as the opportunity to make everyone feel comfortable, express themselves, and if there are problems, we will address it. So what my concerns is really like, I guess I really want students to feel comfortable. I want them to not feel like their grades are being jeopardized with anything they have to say. I believe everyone, we have human rights. So if there's a problem, something needs to be addressed, I believe we have every right for it to be fixed. We don't deserve to sit down and just let things happen to us because, oh, this is the norm. It's a part of life and this and that. Like, no. We have rights just like everybody else. If there's a problem, it needs to be fixed. Our skin color does not change anything, and it is not normalized just because of the color of our skin.
My major concern is just why hasn't anyone taken accountability? Why has our principal felt the need to come outside in the cafeteria crying every day? Why has every teacher in that school felt so scared to the fact that they need to fly under the radar under a principal? Why is every teacher in that school trying to, oh, I feel so sympathetic for you, my heart hurts? No, that's not what I need. That is not what I need at all. And I just want to speak on my own experience. But basically, I think it was last week I was in the cafeteria and I was trying to get everybody to basically just repost this poster. I was with a group of about, I think, 6 people. And to be fair, I was actually one of the, I wasn't even loud. I was being quiet and I was just quietly trying to get people to repost it. And there was other people just there playing music and dancing and just a lot. But there was a lot of kids in there, not in uniform, doing the work and just doing like TikToks, anything. So while I was trying to get them to repost, my vice principal came outside and she came directly to the group that I was at. And the comment that initially was said in that video was, don't draw attention to yourself. That was specifically said to me. She was talking to me, and when I asked her about it, she decided to back off and she was like, oh, I'm not gonna have this conversation with you. And then she ran away. Because I asked her, and normally nobody would ask anybody in administration or call them out and just be like, what makes you say these things? Or if they do, they try to spin it back and they try to beat around the bush or they try to sugarcoat things. And that's what I do not like about the administration at Cardinal Legion is because they try to sugarcoat a lot of things that happen. And they just need to be blunt, and the fact that they try to sugarcoat it makes me even more mad because why are you not being direct? I asked her why she wasn't being direct and why did she not just, if I'm being loud, you can say you're just being loud, so don't draw attention to yourself. Don't try to make, I just felt like she was trying to quiet me down as a person. And honestly, my voice should never be quieted. My voice should be loud. I'm going to be heard regardless. And this needs to be spoken about. And the fact that you are trying to make me feel like I'm less of a person and that I shouldn't be heard, it really did it for me. And I'm going to be very blunt with you. I do not feel safe at this school. I would rather actually transition out of this school, but because I'm so late in my senior year, I have no choice but to stick it out. And I have no choice but to try to just stay to myself, stay as peaceful as I can, because I will fight, but the fight will be with many.
I think, agreeing with Taya, I feel like accountability needs to happen. Understanding that to be an ally to the Black community, you have to step out of your comfort zone. A lot of the teachers don't want to do that. They don't want to help. They say they do, or they say they sympathize, but they don't actually put, their talk is cheap. They don't want to put action to that. But there are teachers that thrive and who help out and do want to make Leger better, but it's not the majority. And I feel like the majority of teachers, admin, like they need to put their money where their mouth is. That's what I'm trying to say.
Okay, now the last question for the student panel is, how has everything impacted you, and what do you need as a student of the DPCDSB to move on?
I would just say I wrote down that it was a very poor situation. It was very triggering. That I'm concerned about my safety, that I'm concerned about my education. And what do I need to move on? I just say, how can I move on? Like, there's too much to have happened to move on. And I feel like the cycle just needs to be broken because I've witnessed not one, not two. You can go into double digits, triple digits about how many kids of color have been targeted at our school, how many black kids have been expelled from our school this year alone. So I would just say, I would rather the teachers, the staff clean out. I want them to be cleared out. I need our principal to be deeply removed. I need her to be inspected and to just evaluate her whole career, evaluate our vice principals. I just need everybody in that school to be just understood. And you need to hear the black students. I don't want, after the fact, that there's, was it just one speaker at our school? I don't want it just one speaker, and after a couple months, I feel like it has worn off and we can go back to regular. It's been, I think, about 2 or 3 weeks, and they went back to it like it was nothing. We're back at regular old Cardinal Leger. We're fine. I don't want to just sweep it under the rug like, it didn't happen. It happened. It happened, and they need to acknowledge it, and the fact that they do not want to take accountability is what makes everybody mad, because you should just stand up and you should own up to it.
Okay, so how has this impacted me? So I know the day right after these situations occurred, it was Remembrance Day assembly for us. It wasn't exactly Remembrance Day, but it was the Friday, and I was one of the students that were performing in the band. And I remember while standing up for the moment of silence, you think like people, they fought for this country, for everyone to be free and like be accepted and live, a comfortable life. It's like this is still going on, and the school, they're acknowledging Remembrance Day, but it's like, are you really acknowledging the soldiers if people don't really feel free and they feel comfortable where they are? So I think what I really want us to just feel safe. I found it a bit awkward how the school day even carried on or wasn't dismissed when a student was just handled, a minor was just handled the way how she was handled, right? I believe that they should have been dismissed, and I don't know, they just expected everyone to carry on with their day as if nothing happened, as if this student doesn't matter when they protest every day. We care, you all matter to us. How does a student matter when the student had a seizure and everything just carried on the way how it did, and just like, I don't know, this whole thing, it was unacceptable, and I think students deserve to feel safe. I also believe parents deserve to be alarmed and aware that there are police on the premises that their children are at. Parents deserve to know that their children are in a safe space. That's what I believe.
So at this time, we have some questions for the adults on the panel. So as mentors, your parents and elders, when you were made aware of these events, how did it make you feel?
So before we get to the responses to the questions, I also want to say something was missed when I introduced Kiara, which was in March of 2023, before graduating, Kiara and Tiori started a petition about some of these issues, and 1,200 people signed it. And by all accounts, like, nothing has changed in Cardinal Leger, right? So this didn't start on November 8th, this didn't start on November 9th.
students have been raising these issues about how they're being treated specifically by the principal and by other staff in the school. And from what we all heard, these students are afraid that their marks will be adjusted if they stand up for themselves, that their marks and their futures will be adjusted downwards, right? So I think they deserve a round of applause for their bravery and courage. These are ladies coming out here today and sharing their lived experience, which has been discounted by specifically their principal, the administrators, some of their teachers, the Peel Regional Police, and various members of the media. I think it's absolutely crucial that when our children speak and say what they're experiencing in this climate of fear, that we hear them and we do something about it, right? Because just hearing them, just having them in this situation where they, most likely, they're courageous, but they're probably feeling some fear. Their classmates are feeling some fear. They're not all here today, right? But they're all feeling this, and they were saying this in a meeting of 50 people in the Black Students Association. And notes were taken from that meeting, and they shared all of those experiences, from being referred to as monkeys, to the N-word, being thrown around by staff in the school, and nobody being held accountable. This is absolutely disgusting.
Not right. It's not right.
Right? And so we do have a list of demands that were created. So I want to bring Charlene Grant back up to the front. Charlene, please. And then we can get into the questions, but let's go through the list of demands, because these are action items. These are things that need to be put in place on behalf of not just the students at Cardinal Leger, but the entire Dufferin Peel Catholic District School Board, and really every school board across this province, because they all have these very same problems. And the difficulty that we experienced on November 9th, that our children experienced on November 9th, happened in Dufferin Peel Catholic Board, probably would have happened differently in Peel District School Board, not because it's a better board and because teachers, admins, and other staff there aren't behaving in racist ways and systemic racism doesn't permeate that place, but because that board was placed under ministry supervision. It was investigated and it was reviewed. And one of the things that was raised was the police in schools. They took the power away from principals in the Peel District School Board to call police directly into the class, into the school. They have to call the Safe and Caring Schools Department, and they have to consult with someone more senior, a superintendent, before a decision is made whether or not police come in, right? So we have two different systems with two different sets of thresholds for when police can be involved in schools. And what we know is that when principals and teachers weaponize police services against our students, it harms Black students specifically, right? It's not, this isn't gonna happen in a school that's predominantly white. They're not gonna call the cops, and they're not gonna call backup, and they're not gonna call 30 units, and they're not gonna call a tactical unit on white children. But they have no hesitation to do that when it's Black children involved. So for all of us to be on the same page, understand there have been rules imposed on schools in Peel because these things were raised in repeated consultations, that principals were weaponizing Peel police. They handcuffed a 6-year-old girl and they shackled her. And she won a human rights case. And she won money after a 6-year battle against the school and the police service for their actions. And the police actually had to apologize for it, right? But this is a historic and current state. This is something that they've always done and continue to do. And some of the checks and balances that we've been able to put in place in the Peel District School Board need to be put in place in all other school boards, particularly the Catholic School Board, the Dufferin Peel Catholic School Board. So with that, I'm gonna say, I see Kathy McDonald back there. She is one of the trustees in the Peel District School Board who probably could tell us a lot about how that fight and all of those fights happened. She was at the center of those fights, and those fights are continuing, right? That work is not done. But we thank Kathy for being here tonight. She is an important figure in the whole fight to get a few of those footprints off of our children's neck in the Peel District School Board. But we have more work to do there, and we have more work to do in the Dufferin Peel Catholic District School Board and across the province. So if you will just take a moment to hear the demands from Charlene. I have them. Thank you.
So I've been asked to share 3 demands. So we're looking for the removal of the principal at Cardinal Leger. We heard that there was a petition being done before. So this is not new, this is ongoing, and the children has raised their voices, but she's still there. One of my personal favorites, we need an investigation into the Dufferin Peel District School Board. The Ministry of Education to issue directives to the Dufferin Peel District School Board to address anti-Black racism, systemic and otherwise within this board. A comprehensive and transparent and public third-party investigation of the incident of November 8th and 9th involving police at Leger Secondary School. Evidence from the Dufferin Peel District School Board that all processes and procedures were followed. Full accountability for any misconduct revealed by the investigation, whether by Peel Regional Police or Dufferin Peel Catholic District School Board. Removal of the responsibility from the principal to determine, they've kind of touched on this, the threshold of level of police responses in schools. This has already been done at other school boards, including Peel District School Board. Remove the suspension letter from the student's charge and end efforts to expel them. There's an expulsion hearing is coming up next week. Complete removal of police presence from Dufferin Peel Catholic District School Board, ensuring accountability for any form of physical aggression towards students by staff and police. We were at a board meeting last week, and I want to touch on this very briefly. Myself, Dave, Andrea, and others at a Dufferin Peel District School Board meeting, and they didn't want us there, they called police. One of the things the police said to us is how often police is called by Dufferin Peel Catholic District School Board. It's what they do. They're in their back pocket. They're ready. I know. Don't let me get started on that. I have strong feelings, but I'll keep that to myself today. Creation of Community Oversight Committee with the mandate to address and rectify systemic issues within the board. An open forum for students and their families within the Dufferin District School Board to articulate their experiences and assist in formulating a specific action plan to combat anti-Black racism. That's it. Yep. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we're gonna go back to the questions for the panel. As our mentors, your parents and others, when you were made aware of the situation, how did this make you feel?
So I just want to start by saying when I found out about the November 9th incident, then I found out about the November 8th incident, then I found out about the March 2023 petition, and then I started hearing from these courageous young people. I was shocked because I went to the Peel Regional Police website and I saw a version of events that came out on the 20th that didn't match with what the students were saying. But more importantly, as a Black man, when somebody suggests to me that teenage girls, 15 and 17 years old, woke up in the morning at 9:50, brought themselves to school, and decided to dummy a cop, I have questions, right? And I feel like those questions should be asked by anyone in a position of power in any of the institutions that were involved in this. And so the greatest question I have is, why are these institutions accepting a version of events and literally raining down a disaster on 3 young ladies, 3 young girls, and the entire school, right? Because even though there's 3 children at the center of this incident, there's countless witnesses who know what they saw, have shared what they saw consistently, and yet when they go on Instagram, they're facing racist bullying, harassment, and hatred because people are saying, oh yeah, these black girls just beat up a cop, throw them in jail forever, leave the country, they shouldn't be here. That's the kind of stuff that was being put on Instagram about these children, right? When they say that nobody de-escalated the situation, I believe them. And I ask all of you to believe them, right? Until the police provide evidence or the school provides evidence with regards to what they're claiming happened, I'm not buying it. And the reason why is because these specific police services in cahoots with this particular school board and all of the others have a long tradition of racialized violence against black children. And so to put the onus on them to prove that their experience happened, that what they are telling us they saw happen, I think is a really big problem when the police clearly state their version of events to the public as though it's a fact, right? And we've known for a very long time, sometimes police lie. So until, I mean, I'm trying to be generous here, right? But police have a history of lying on black people. So I don't think that without deeper scrutiny, we should accept the police version of events. But some amongst us, and not here in this room, but some people don't think that scrutiny is necessary. They just wash their hands of it, wash their hands of the 3 young girls that are criminally charged, their lives are screwed up, that haven't left their home in 2 weeks, and that are pending expulsions on a 20-day suspension from school and having their educations disrupted. Plus all of the other children that are traumatized in that school. I think it's shameful that we are not all demanding answers and proof, right? If the hospital gets bombed in Palestine, in Gaza, someone has to provide proof, right? Nobody just says, oh, well, Israel said they didn't do it, or Hamas said they didn't do it, so that's it. People are looking for proof. People are looking for the facts to be scrutinized and borne out. And these young people haven't been afforded that opportunity, and to me, that's devastating. And so that's why, you know, with Gord and Andrea and Carrie and Charlene and Carrie and a whole bunch of others, Andrea, and all of the students, that's why we put this together to get this message out there, because our message wasn't heard. Our message is never heard. The police use our taxpayers' dollars to fund a media department that spins out this information. And I have a question. If this happened on November 9th, and it involves minor children, why was a press release necessary on November 20th by Peel Regional Police? On one hand, they will say they want to protect the identities of the young people involved. On the other hand, they subjected the entire school to trauma and anti-black racism and violence online by releasing that information. So you can't have it both ways. You're either going to release the full information and the proof and the evidence that backs up your story, or we're going to have to continue to support the version of events that we hear directly from young people who were there, who witnessed it, right? So I'm going to pass it to Charlene and then Gord. You might want to hear the question.
Repeat the question, please.
So the question is, as mentors, your parents and elders, when you were made aware of these events, how did it make you feel?
I know Dave and I spoke about this. Sleepless nights. Was hurtful. I wanted to get in touch. As POBC, we want to hear from the parents, and the girls that experienced this. What I didn't know when I was finally contacted by the parents is that they were all from the same family. 2 sisters and a cousin, they live in the same home. It's not lost on me at times that when we speak to parents, this is hard, we get to hear them crying for their children. This mom, it was in pain. As she was telling the story, what didn't come out here was the day before, they went to the school because the girls were having issues about how they were being treated. And when the mom went to the school, the principal refused to speak with her. She turned her away and she said, I'm not leaving until you speak to me about my children. They're not safe here. They're facing X, Y, and Z. And she said, if you don't leave, I'm going to call the police. Actually, she said, get out my school. We pay taxes for that. They work for us. She goes, get out my school. And if you don't leave, I'm going to call the police. And the mom said, go ahead. So in 48 or less than 36 hours, 3 times the same principal called the police on the same family. Those same cops showed up the next day and were shocked because they told the mom, you could make a report at the station about how you were treated the day before. So to hear her tell the story of how she could hear her daughter, I think one of the ladies said it, one of the girls said it, crying for her mother. She said it likened unto George Floyd. If you don't have children, if that doesn't move your inside as a parent, as a person, as a human being, we all know what that felt like when we witnessed that. So to have your own child at the hospital when the little girl collapsed outside. Prior to that, her collapsing, she was throwing up blood when she was being held. Somebody said she was held for 7 hours before they gave bail or whatever, paperwork. She collapsed outside and the mother was freaking out, as anybody could imagine. It's not normal. But there's this socialization that our pain is normalized. There's this thing that it's supposed to happen to us. So no one is moved, no one feels it except for us. So, and even hearing that, and you know, I heard the nurses saying, remove the mom, because she was like hysterical. She kept crying for her daughter to wake up. But that's not what we saw in the news or what the police put out. Because what the police know? Anything they say about us is believed. So who's going to question them? Peel Police Services, they came out with their report on how racist they are. They all are. All police forces are racist. I don't care what color you are in there. The system is racist. I had the same day when I told you they called the police on us, it's on body cam, I had it on my own recording. The cops looked at us and said, the blackest cop that was standing there in front of us and said, you just need to get your children to behave and go to school and stop being a victim. Because he wanted to hype and show that he is better than, he's not one of us to his white colleagues. I have a couple names for him, but I won't say them here today.
And then he says, yo, for college, nah, come.
Oh yes, he said, and I will paraphrase, what if when the principal called we didn't show up and somebody got hurt? I said, when we call you, you don't even show up. And he looked at me and said, don't ever call us and step towards me. That's on his body cam. But I wasn't intimidated. And I said to him, I go, if we weren't here in this setting with all these cameras, you would be different towards me. You know, as black women, we know we're not protected, not even by our own men. We know we're not protected. So when I sit and I hear and I see those girls and how they were and their mother, and to hear her cry, what you all don't know, POBC, we don't have a 9 to 5. 2 days ago, that mom texted me at 12 o'clock at night, she couldn't sleep. It's not normal. So we should never normalize this. When I called her back, I didn't get her and I was scared. I didn't tell my husband because I was scared for her. So I texted her and she said, I'm sorry, I took medication and I fell asleep. I just needed somebody in that moment. Our hours are not 9 to 5. Because when our family call us, we're there. So when I look around and I don't see people that we elect, like Lecce, Minister of Education, guys, next year is election. We need to make our voices heard because they're not only the Minister of Education for one group, they're for all of us. And we should make them pay. When they come to your door, tell them, show us in your plan. Tell me, what are you going to do for me and others that look like me? So when you ask me, how did I feel? I was numbed. It's painful to know because that call was on the heel that same week where I spoke to a dad with his 12-year-old daughter in Dufferin, Durham Catholic that was tased. She was 12. His lawyer said, Dad, I beg you not to look at the body cam. They torture your daughter on body cam. Those officers didn't even know what to do to this 12-year-old. They had to Google it. It was captured on their body cam, guys. This is what happened to our babies. That same week, a 12-year-old girl in Waterloo shared a story. That's not why she called us, but the story she shared, she was strip searched by her vice principal. Strip search, looking for, because the teacher went in, or the vice principal went in the washroom and it smelled like weed. And she only searched the 2 black girls, not the little white girls that were in that room. Come on, guys. We don't make the story. We can't even make the story up. I have many more of those stories. So when you ask me how I felt, those were the 3 cases, little girls, that I had to support in that week. Myself and Xavier, our team is small. There's 4 of us. One served from Florida and one served from Ottawa. And Xavier and I are here locally. It's not easy.
Thank you, Shirley. Thanks for sharing. And shout out to Xavier. I see you back there not feeling well, but the work you do is so valuable. Parents of Black children, all of the work that you do is so valuable, and the support that you provide. I don't know where our communities, our students and their families would be without this avenue to see their issues addressed in the school board. So, Gord Gallimore, same question. As an adult and a mentor, how does it make you feel when you hear these type of things?
So how do I feel? So being a product of Dufferin Peel Catholic School Board myself, I went to elementary school, I went to high school in Dufferin Peel Catholic School Board. I mean, things haven't changed since the 90s. I mean, I remember myself getting in a situation with the police whereby I was friends with a Italian friend, and he got into a fight, and we were watching the fight, and that boy ended up going home, getting his brothers, coming back to the school, fighting some of the black other students in the school, and then police came and removed him from the school. Next day, I find out that I'm being charged for putting hands on him, which I never did. Go to court. The Italian boy who directly fought the kid wasn't charged. I got charged. I had to do probation. 2 years later, some of my friends had gone to St. Joe's to beat up a kid. I wasn't there, but my name got called. Next day, I see 3 police officers in a room in the principal's office. I was threatened that I was going to be charged for being a gang leader, a gang member, all these things. My mentor and football coach came to came into the room because he was asked to come into the room because I told him that I was working out, being a football player. And he came in and he says he's not able to, disclose where I was because he just didn't want to be involved. It took 2 white teachers who were also there when I was working out to come in and said, no, Gordy was with me. We were working out in the weight room. And so that's the only reason why I didn't get charged for being a gang leader, gang member, aggravated assault, attempted murder, all these things. And so at that point in time, I had left that school because it just wasn't safe for me. The school that I ended up going to, I did my OAC credits, so I'm kind of dating myself, but I did my OAC credits and then I ended up going to university. So as I look back at some of those moments, that if, some of the girls were talking about it earlier, that, some of our own black or racialized teachers could be the ones perpetuating harm versus some of the white teachers who in my case they had my back, right? So this all, it's unfortunate, right? Because we think that things are gonna change. The world, quote unquote, changed when, George Floyd passed away. There was was murdered. Was murdered. We thought things were gonna change. Things really haven't changed, and we just have to keep fighting. And I heard about this situation the day it happened, and I kind of sat on it because I wanted to see what was going to happen in terms of the police and how they were going to roll out the story. And I had told Dave that I was going to wait a little while, and then sure and behold, we sent an email out to our anti-racist action committee with the Peel Region Police, and we got the answer that we expected, that the police were going to protect each other, and everyone's going to believe the story, because nowadays when you think about stories, it's not about telling the truth, it's about who gets it out first, right? So if your story gets out there first, then that's the truth, right? And some of the violence that these girls were facing on Instagram and social media, it's crazy because I had to log in under a fake Instagram page and come to the rescue of these girls because just wasn't right. So I side with these girls. I want them to know that they have my support, and together we'll fight this as a community. Thanks.
Okay, and then Andrea from Policing Free Schools is going to share her thoughts for a moment, and then we're going to open up the floor. We want to hear from people if they have experiences to share, comments about the situation, or questions about how to be supported. So, Andrea.
Thank you. In regards to answering the question, I'm definitely angry, right? We know that this is a historical issue. It's not just a one-time event. It is not an isolated issue. These are patterns, right? By these educational spaces at the Dufferin Peel Catholic District School Board and otherwise. Enraged that folks from community here in Peel Region, including Peel Advocacy, including COLA, and so many others, had already led this fight combating anti-Black racism to get an investigation into the Peel District School Board. At the same time, Stephen Leche was advised that this is a systemic issue. It is not an isolated issue. It is not just a local issue. It was never just a Peel District School Board issue. It was always a provincial issue, including right here at the Dufferin Peel Catholic District School Board. Stephen Leche painted it as an isolated issue, to not actually commit to the systemic changes across the Ministry of Education, including at the post-secondary level, right? If the Minister of Education, including at colleges and universities, wanted, they would have been able to push through and pass the bill number 16, which is around racial equity in the education system act, right? They pushed through a lot of corrupt motions. But when we're talking about addressing anti-Black racism, when addressing systemic racism, there's nothing. This is a lack of political will. That's right. A lack of political will. Young people in these educational spaces are unable to learn because they are not safe. This is about persistent traumatic stress environments. Dr. Jinwright talks to us about, moving away from just talking about PTSD, right? Because this is not just a one-time event. These educational environments are about persistent traumatic stress for students. These are human rights violations. Equitable access to education is a human right. Anti-Black racism, carcerality, and policing impedes that access. There was no reason, in addition, there was no reason for police presence to be at that particular school or any school, right? We have a provincial model for local school board protocol between schools and police, right? There are times when they are mandated by the province. That was not one of the times. And where were the educators telling the police officer to stand down? Where were the educators to state that we're here to provide supports and resources to these students so they are provided a nurtured environment to de-escalate? Conflict is natural within educational spaces. But when that happens, Black youth are adultified, are demonized, and seen as disposable. This has to be shut down at a systemic level, at the Dufferin Peel Catholic District School Board level, and across the province and country.
Thank you. Just before we open the floor to questions, I feel like it's important for me to speak. Many of you may not know my role here, as I'm not still a student at Cardinal Leger. I'm a former student. I graduated June 2023. And I started thank you. And I started a petition with my friend in March of 2023, addressing many issues, but in particular, the African American heritage stoles. I'm pretty sure you guys have seen them on Amazon. You've seen people wear them to cross the stage. They typically say Black girl magic. They say all types of empowering, things on them. And when we brought the topic up to the principal at that school, she had told us that we're not allowed to wear them because they're not inclusive of white people. What? So when we heard that, I don't really know what to think when I heard that, to be honest, because I feel like me as a student, since the beginning of time, I've been labeled to have behavioral issues because I'm very outspoken. I don't let anybody walk all over me. If I have something to say, I will say it. So for me, and that being known throughout the school and the administrators, it was very difficult for me to understand or to even think about how I'm supposed to address something like that. So Tiori took the initiative to start a petition and bring it to my attention, and us together, we took on the petition, and at first it started as a paper petition throughout the school. It wasn't even supposed to be a petition within the community, with the parents, with people who don't even know who we are. It started within the school, and when we went around class to class getting particularly grade 12 students to sign the petition, there was an email sent out to the teachers in regards of not allowing us to enter their classrooms to get students to sign the petition. And the following day, I was even made aware of this by a teacher. It was a teacher who told me this. So the following day, I attempted to leave my classroom to go to the washroom, and I was told that I needed to be escorted to the washroom. So when I heard this, I was confused because at the end of the day, you can't tell me what to do. If I need to go pee, I'm gonna go pee, and I'm not gonna wait for anybody to bring me to the washroom, because you cannot tell me how urgent it is or is not. So when I heard this, I brought this to Tiori's attention, and she was also telling me that, she was also told by her teachers that they're not allowed to let us leave class. So we took the initiative to go to the office, and we sat there until she would see us. She took people before us. She's seen us sitting there waiting to speak to her, and she ignored us. She's like, hold on, ignoring us. And finally we got tired of waiting, and we walked into her office. When we first got to her office, she tried to, at first she, the nice act, oh, what's your concerns, guys? Like, what's going on? Acting as though she doesn't know what we're here about. And when we addressed her about it, me personally, I tried my hardest to remain respectful. I'm not gonna say that I was the nicest ever because, and when you're frustrated, it's hard. But knowing the things that are said about Black people, it was very important for me to try and maintain my composure, because I know that any hint of aggression from me would immediately allow her to spin it and turn it into whatever she wanted to. So I remained as calm as possible, and I spoke to her and I said, you cannot target us. You cannot tell me that I cannot leave my classroom if I desire to pee. You cannot tell me when I cannot leave my classroom. And her response to that was that she's no longer speaking to us as a group, that if we want to speak to her, we need to speak to her one-on-one. And she tried to separate me and Tiori and send me out of the office, but obviously we're not doing that because we had already had discussions with our parents. Our parents were already very much aware of the petition. They're very much aware of the things that were going on after the petition was made public knowledge. And Tiori began to record in the office, and when she was recording in the office, the principal got in our faces and started to yell at us and told us that we cannot record in her office, that we cannot call our parents. And she specifically looked me in my face as I told her to call my dad and said, your dad does not run this school, I run this school. I don't need to call your dad if I don't want to. So when she said that to me, I just walked out the office. I didn't have nothing else to say, because at the end of the day, I don't need to deal with you. You need to speak to my parents. You guys are so big on, parents and guardians sign this, parents and guardians this. So that's the person that you need to direct your concerns to. You're not gonna sit in this office and belittle me and bully me. So I took myself out that office and I went home. And after that, the targeting didn't stop. Any kind of incident that happened, even if it wasn't an incident of aggression, it was just, I'm having a conversation with a teacher. She found a way to insert herself. So, an administrator, in particular, your principal, continuously targeting you and watching out for you. But my thing is, and I feel like it's very important for, the parents of, Black children like me, you need to teach your children to speak up for themselves. We cannot just always rely on the adults to speak up for us, because I feel like a lot of the times, sometimes, I'm not gonna lie, sometimes our parents do side with them, because, we all say, we know our child, we know our children, we know how our children are. But sometimes they like to use things, and because they have access to our records, they know our history, and they like to use that to their advantage to label us. You need to speak to teach your children to speak up for themselves and to not allow themselves to be embarrassed in the classroom, to be treated like anything less than what they are. If they're not satisfied with their grade, if they know that they put in the work and they feel like their grade is being influenced by the color of their skin or anything that's been mentioned in the classroom, in particular with gender, anything of those things, you need to speak up for yourself. Don't let anybody walk all over you and bulldoze you. You are still a person, and just because you're a child, that does not remove your voice. You are still allowed to speak up for yourself. At the end of the day, you're the one who has to deal with the problems. You go to the school. So, your parents can call and book meetings, but you still have to go into that school every day and deal with the same foolishness every day. I did it for 4 years. My entire 4 years at that school, I'm not gonna lie, I was depressed. I did not want to be at that school. You could ask my mom. There was a point in time where I even wanted to transfer to a school that wasn't even in the city I live in. I wanted to move. I did not want to be in that school anymore. I was tired of it. But at the end of the day, it starts with you. If you want to see change, you have to speak up for yourself, no matter what you fear. Because at the end of the day, when you publicize and you show everybody what's going on, don't be quiet. Don't be quiet. Don't just keep it to the meetings that you have in the office. Be loud. Scream if you have to. Stand on tables. Do what you need to do. Be loud. Because when everybody sees it, they can't lie. They can't lie when everybody sees what's going on. And that's exactly what happened with the petition, because we were loud, we didn't shut up, we didn't let her bully us, and at the end of the day, guess what? We walked across the stage with our stoles on, and she was pissed. She was pissed. She was mad as hell. She was so mad. She didn't even want to shake our hands at the end of the day. She didn't want to shake our hands. You should have seen her face in the pictures, but who cares? Who cares? It's about you. At the end of the day, you're the one who wants education, you know? It's about you. The system is set up for you to succeed. And if you want to succeed, you have to take it and you have to do what you got to do, even if at the end of the day, you have to, you know, deal with a little bit of repercussions, but it's worth it at the end of the day because you set an example for the people after you. And I feel like me and Tiori even starting that petition is the reason why a lot of you guys even feel comfortable speaking up, because I even had students, not even Black students, coming up to me and saying, you know what, thank you. Thank you for starting the petition. Thank you for saying something. Because the problems are only going to get worse once you guys leave. And it's true. It's only gotten worse. That's why we're here right now. So thank you guys for speaking up. Continue to speak up. Be loud. Don't let nobody silence you. Who cares? Bully them back. Because she was crying and saying how we're bullying her. She cried and said to other students how I'm bullying her. You think I care? I don't care if I'm bullying her. You're a grown woman. You should be able to handle it. You love to say, this is my school. I'm in power. So at the end of the day, how am I bullying you? Little old 17-year-old me, I'm bullying you because I have a voice? Don't let nobody bully you. Don't let nobody use their little words to back you into a corner. Stand on what you believe in and be loud about it.
Thank you for that, Kira, and thank you for starting the petition and laying down some receipts for the principal, Miss Frances Campisi, the one that we're demanding be removed from the school, because she has a track record and she has a long history of disregarding the concerns of Black students and Black families, and a new history of weaponizing police against our Black students. That is now in the public. Now everybody's aware of it, and it makes no sense that that principal is still there. It also makes no sense that the Dufferin Peel Catholic District School Board has so far refused to meet with Gord Gallimore, the chair of the BCAC committee, after his request, has refused to meet with parents of Black children, right? And this is when they hide behind, oh, there's a criminal matter before the courts. Xavier, yell it out.
I think it's important for everyone here to know that it is not by the state and it is done purposefully. And there are numerous points that show that it's done purposefully. If you were to ask those same students at Cardinal Ratio if the Black graduation coaches have been in their school this school year, what would that answer be? No. And they weren't there last year, correct?
They weren't here last year, no. They haven't been there any of the years that I was here.
Maybe not for what you know, but from what I know, the Black graduation coaches have been very active in the schools, especially schools with higher Black populations, up until the beginning of this year. And the reason why it seems like they are no longer in schools in the Dufferin Peel Catholic District School Board is because of the level of advocacy that they provide for Black students. So that's one point. Point number two, and Charlene can speak to this, we have a case that the director of the board specifically spoke to and said that it was a clear example of anti-Black racism because, and the only reason why it was done was because this educator or this administrator, vice principal, was foolish enough to not realize that they had CC'd or replied all to something, and so the parent was privy to a conversation that was very racist about her child. And then it was brought to the board, and that's why the board was easily able to admit it. When action needed to be taken against that administrator, the action was to actually move that administrator out of that school and put them into a school with a higher black population where they can continue to carry on that same racist behavior. I heard very clearly at the beginning of this that Cardinal Leger is a school that is used for fresh starts. So there's, and a fresh start for your education is where a student may have been involved in something at another school, and that school no longer feels as though that student is safe to be at that school, and they may pose a risk or a threat to the safety of others within that school. And so they take that student and send them to another school where they feel like that won't happen. The fact that Cardinal Leger is one of those schools, the fact that the principal had police plainclothes in the school before the girls ever came to school for another situation, the fact that the principal threatened to call the police on mom for her reaction, the fact that this board has 28 cases with parents of black children over the course of the last 2 school years, which represents some of the highest numbers outside of the Toronto District School Board, which is a much larger school board than this one, York Region District School Board, and Toronto Catholic District School Board. The fact that this small board has such a large influence on the number of cases that we have, and the fact that they have lost an Ontario Human Rights Commission's case in 2008, I believe, as was written in the Toronto Caribbean paper for the Wednesday, December 6th edition, I think we would be fooling ourselves if we try to put good intentions on those who do not have good intentions for us. And if you do not add up all the different conferring points, then you might fool yourself into thinking that these schools are safe places when actually they're not, and they're a safe haven for racists. And my last point, myself and Charlene dealt with a case last week where a white student started a club at his school called the Cool Kids Club, with all letters spelled with a K. He also referred to himself as the Grand Wizard of that club. He also recruited other students into that club and continued to bully and be physically violent against one of the few black children in the school and the only black child in his class. While the school board took some measures, they were half measures. They didn't contact the police, they didn't contact Children's Aid Services, and they didn't take it to the level that it should have been taken to. And a part of that is because our voices and our lives and our children do not seem to matter as much as everyone else. And so if we take these singular incidences and think of them only as single incidences, we miss the larger point. And if we don't also ask the question, would this have been done to a white child, then you will not get a true understanding of what a human rights violation is and what anti-black racism looks like.
Thank you. So we are now at the point where folks in the audience, if they have comments or questions, I'll pass the mic around. I know there's probably people that have been waiting to speak.
Good evening, everyone. To the students and on the panel, I'm very appreciative that you had the opportunity to speak your truth. As a mom of a student at Cardinal Leger, she came home and she told me what happened at her school. And so it concerned me, even though I know that these things have been happening. When I heard from you young ladies, the panel, and what I heard when I inquired about what took place, I was at the parent-teachers meeting that I attend every month. and I encourage parents here, if it's possible, attend the parent council meeting. I took it upon myself to ask about the incident that took place, and the principal said to me, she cannot speak about it because it's under investigation. So I decided to rephrase the question, and I said, what are you doing about the safety in the school? So they moved on with the Roberts agenda and said that they're going to get back to it, which the chair did. And when they addressed the safety in the school, they spoke about lockdown and fire drills and etc. The principal was talking about that, and then she came around to the incident that took place in the school. There was no specific information other than she said, okay, they followed all the measures to de-escalate the situation, and that if a parent is insisting that a police should be called in the school, then that's what they had to do. So I asked the question, my understanding was there a police officer in the school. I thought that there were no police officers in the school anymore. And she said that there was a police officer, but the police officer was in plain clothes. And I said, were the students aware of this? And the members were saying it doesn't matter. So I left it there. So I am so appreciative of hearing firsthand what took place at Cardinal Leger. It's not surprising to me, as I've heard many echoed what took place in the past. I've had experiences myself. I've seen it firsthand myself. So I'm very grateful. I know it's not easy for you girls to speak your truth, and it was very courageous, and I want you to continue to speak, because when we as adults speak, it falls on deaf ears. They talk a lot about student advocacy and student voice, and this is what you're doing here tonight, and I pray that you continue with your voice, because we are all here to support you.
Thank you, Dave. I'm just going to make sure I'm looking at everyone. So, good evening, everyone. My name is Deborah McKenna-Walford. I'm here with many hats, and I won't say all of them. But one of the most important ones is I'm also a parent of a child in this board. And you young folks who have spoken to us here tonight, I want to start by saying to you that your voice is powerful, that what you're not hearing, though, that you need to hear, is that you are on the beginning of a very difficult path. When you speak out, you have a target on your back. And as an educator, another hat that I'm wearing, and as a Black woman, that target is intense. So what you're also going to need from us here tonight, I'm sure that the call to action is going to come before we leave here, but you're going to need community. You're going to need wraparound support. And all of us here who are listening, and yes, venting is important, and the emotional weight of what we're hearing is important, but the action and solidarity in our community is essential. And too much of the work that we're doing is siloed. And these young ladies don't deserve for us to be siloed. So in terms of commitment to all of you, we need to know where you need us to show up and what we need to do. Right? Your community is not going to leave you behind. The teachers in your school, there's a Black Teacher Association in Dufferin. Are any of them here tonight? Wonderful. Right? We need to come together as educators. We need to come together as the parents. We need to come together as the small businesses. We need to come together as the political representatives. All of us have a role to play. And I'm hoping that before we leave here tonight, we commit to doing that. I'm looking forward to hearing it. And again, your bravery is just the beginning. It's just the beginning. It's gonna get harder. You're gonna want to give up. Opportunities are gonna be taken away from you, but it doesn't matter as long as you have us, and you do have us. So I just wanted to share that.
Sir, can everyone that wants to speak just give it a short hand? We can go two people in a good order. 2, 3, 4. Okay, go ahead.
Congratulations, young ladies, on what you were doing. Very courageous. That lady there actually took much of what I wanted to say, because I wanted to make sure that the courageous actions of these young ladies did not go wasted. You know, we have a responsibility as the adults in the room to do some action that makes sure that their self-advocacy does not go to waste. This is a town hall meeting, right? And it's great that we clap and stuff, but there has to be solid action that takes place that makes sure that what they're doing doesn't go to waste, right? The result of this meeting needs to be a mob. Right? The energy that, you know, we were clapping sometimes when one of the ladies was talking about some other issues of colorism and whatever, but the outrage needs to be at that 3 young women were assaulted by the police force in a school. That's where the energy needs to be focused on. And the pitchforks and torches that come out of this town hall meeting should be that Minister Lecce should have an email from every single person here in his inbox tomorrow morning. Right? They need to know that we don't play. But too often, right, they take us for granted, and they all the parties, they take our votes for granted, and they take everything for granted from us. But we have to do things. We need to support what they're doing. A police officer punched a black woman, a young black girl in the face. That's the outrage that should come out of this. And the Minister of Education needs to know that.
Yes. Thank you.
Hey everyone, my name is Emma Ansa, and I am a journalist for the African Diaspora News Channel. It's located in Houston, Texas, but the founder was very much interested in anti-Black racism in Canada. So I got that job, and I report on all things across Canada that goes on for our people. And I am so thrilled to be here, not because of the tragedy that we're hearing about, but because I can now connect to the people here, and it will be my pleasure and honor to continue to spread and make this aware across the millions of viewers that watch this channel that I work for on a daily basis. So I'm looking forward to connecting. And let me tell you, these people come for me when I report on the anti-Black racism that we experience here and across Canada. They come for me, and I'm like, bring it on. I will not stop putting these stories out and making this aware, because there are a lot of people in the United States and across the continent of Africa and across the diaspora that are unaware. So I get messages from people saying, I didn't know this happens in Canada. I can't believe this is going on in Canada. And I get this all the time. And I'm here to say, I will keep putting these stories out. I will not stop. You're very welcome. And to these ladies, these young ladies here, I'm very proud of you. Keep doing what you're doing. Keep fighting, keep pushing. And if you want to tell me your stories, I'm more than happy to report them. And to Charlene Grant and parents of Black children, so happy to hope to connect with you all. Get those stories out there, and I will continue to do so. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Tia Duke. I wear many hats as well. Deborah, there's several people in this room I'm familiar with. First of all, I want to say thank you to Charlene, David, Gord, all of the organizers for putting this together. I wanted to first address the girls on the panel, the young ladies, young women on the panel. And I want to say to you that your bravery is to be commended. But I want you to also know that you deserve all the rest, all the joy, all of the girlhood of your teenage years. And I want us to remember in this room that it is not fair that our kids have to fight to be teenagers and to be children in schools. And what that says about us as adults who have voting power, who have emails to contact all of the trustees who are not here in this room. And I have to be careful, but I want you to know that where I work, I heard you. I have my marching orders. I will action what I can. I will tell and influence where I can. But you have a girlhood. Take it. Rest is an act of resistance. If you get tired and you don't want to fight, we are the ones who should be fighting for these kids. It's not for children to fight for children. It's for us as adults to fight for kids. And at some point, this has to stop. I don't want my 5-year-old and 7-year-old to be sitting at a town hall when they're 17 repeating Gord's story. Absolutely not. So, we all have access to voting power. We all have a local trustee. Some of us are in associations. Some of us can have conversations in our staff rooms. Some of us can ask our principals about what are they doing about anti-Black racism in school. We can go up to the parent council, as Sasha said, right? How do we get active as community members, understanding, yes, that there is risk, but if we're doing the things we need to do in the spaces in which we have influence, there can be change. And please don't kid yourselves to think that this is a cardinal leger problem. Okay? It's not just a cardinal, this is one symptom of a larger problem. So please, I urge you, whatever the call to action is tonight, know who your trustee is. If it's the same person who's been voted in for the last several elections, maybe one of us needs to take the call and run, right? But we really need to allow these kids to be kids in school. These girls should be planning for whatever season, whatever activity, whatever prom. That should be their main concern, not worrying about if microaggressions are going to cause them not to get the grade they want, right? And we do not need to be afraid to go in and speak to the people in the schools who are accountable. The Human Rights Code says every single child has a right to access a discrimination and harassment-free environment. Every worker in this province has the right to access a discrimination and harassment-free, and that covers a lot of things. A lot of unwarranted comments. We have to be really aware and equip our children with the information and equip each other with the information we need to protect ourselves in these spaces. But I thank God for you, Charlene. I thank God for you, David, Gord, all of you doing this advocacy work. And I pray for you girls. Don't be fearful. Stand in your greatness, but rest. Have fun. Enjoy your youth. You deserve that. You deserve all the things. You take them. Don't let these people steal your joy and steal your light. You deserve your girlhood.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. It's good to see a lot of our folks out here. Listen, I'm sorry for what you girls have gone through. I'm going to be blunt. I think, honestly, Black parents have failed you girls. And I'll say this, as somebody who is at the forefront of the Peel fight, and I led the biggest march from the courthouse to the Peel District School Board. I can tell you something. Today, we're still dealing with the same issues that were resolved. It's not only in Dufferin Peel. Like Andrea said, and some people have said, it's all over Ontario. All over Ontario. Now, what have we been doing about that as black people? How many people show up at the Dufferin Peel Catholic School Board meetings? How many people show up at the PDSB board meetings? That's the story. That's the answer.
They call the cop.
Well, even when they don't, they've called so many times. Some of us have been vilified, but how many people do? There are three ways to addressing this issue. Activism is one of them. There's the legal side, and there's the political side. In all three of these areas, we're failing. There's not going to be any solution. We're failing as black people. There's nobody coming to help us. It's on us to help our children. It's on us to fight. Other communities are fighting. The first one, activism. Our sisters here have been doing what they're doing. We're doing what we're doing. But how many people show up? Not a whole lot. You can show up to a board meetings and count the number of black people that are there. And you want solutions for black children? It's not going to happen. How many people vote? We just had elections. How do you expect to effect change if you don't go vote? If you can't get these people out? Here's what I have for you. Stop voting for people who don't care for you. And stop voting for black people that have never shown you in any way, shape, or form that they care for you and your children. It doesn't matter in what capacity. Whether they're black does not give them the title for them to represent you. If they've not demonstrated that they care, that they can do anything for you, or have shown that they can help you, or have helped your community in any way, shape, or form, do not vote for them because they're not going to help you. At the Peel District School Board, we have a black person. We have a directive that needs to be implemented. Zip, nothing. Dufferin Peel election is not a black person. That's the political answer. As long as we don't have representation there from people who mean well, there's not going to be a solution. Legally, we have to be able to raise the money to get a lawyer. What does this system understand? Money and lawyers. In that area, we're failing. So this is a challenge to all black people. I hope these same people will find the time and the space to show up at Dufferin Peel District School Board or the PBSB. All of this is going to amount to nothing because I've seen all of this happen. Tell black children, for those watching at home, black parents, get off your comfort zone. Go to school boards. Go register. Vote and get these people out. It's in you to protect your children. Ain't nobody coming to protect them. Thank you. Excuse me, by the way, for those black people who represent us that have shown nothing, vote them all out. And for those people who attack us and say, well, you got loudmouth, vote them out. Provincially, municipally, federally, and at the school board, get rid of them. If they ain't fighting for you, get rid of them. This is when you need them. Other communities got the people fighting for them. And I can tell you right now, the same is true for Islamophobia. We have Muslim people, and I say this to the Muslim community too. Ain't nobody coming to rescue you. You fight for yourself. If you can't fight, why are you representing me? At the bare minimum, advocate on my behalf. If you can't do that, we don't need you. And that's the reason you need to pay attention to who you vote for. Be true to yourself. If you're not going to be supported, don't vote for them. Let them go. We can do with other people.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Nicole Samuels. I'm a trauma and grief educator. And I agree with the very passionate gentleman that just spoke and this lady over here. And I agree that we have failed as parents. I'm a parent. I have a 27-year-old daughter and 23-year-old son, and I've been through the system. And so it's not just at this stage. When my son and daughter were 7 and 10 in the library at school, they were having a fight over a book. They didn't try to de-escalate. I got a call at work that the police was at the library for my 7 and 10-year-old, fighting over a book. And so I've been through the system, I've seen it, and I just want to applaud all of you for being brave, but just like this lady here said, you know what, it's your job to be students, it's your job to be teenagers, and it's our job to advocate for you, to be present. Not just voting, because that happens once a year, twice a year, whatever it is, and whoever we vote, they give us the message, they tell us what they're going to do, but they may change it. It is for us as parents to advocate for our children, to be present, for every teacher, every vice principal, every principal to know our names and to be there for them. And so after today is done, and we've heard your story, my concern for you is the depression, the trauma, the emotional isolation that you're all going to feel, and what are your parents, what are we as adults going to be doing about that? Because this is going to be with you for a very long time. And so as parents, as a Black community, one of our struggles is that we don't deal with trauma. We know it's there, but culturally, we don't deal with it. So I want to encourage everyone here to also address the needs that you're going to have. And my question is there any ongoing therapy for any of you and for the young lady that this happened to? Has the school provided anything? Your parents, agencies, anything? This is a big concern for me. So until the voting happens, until there's a second and third and fourth party investigation, what is going to be happening to these young ladies? This is something that we need to think about because it's going to repeat and cycle. So we need to deal with their emotional trauma. So I want to let you know that I am a certified grief educator. I'm here. If any of you parents or you want to talk to me, I run a free support group every Tuesday. I am hybrid, so we can talk. I don't want to take up any more time, but everyone in this room should be concerned about your mental health and your emotional well-being during this whole process. Thank you.
Thank you for that.
So we're going to wrap up. I think we have 2 more hands. I just want to, we're getting a couple of email addresses up on the screen for folks to email their concerns to as one piece of this. I do want to comment that our political leaders were invited here today and institutional leaders. We don't see many of them. We did see one gentleman happens to be the only Black city councilor in the region of Peel, which itself is shameful. But he was here, he wasn't feeling well, but he came and he helped set up the tablecloth, and he stayed as long as he could. So his name is Martin Reed, and he supports a lot of the things that we do in the community. The other thing is, we are going to be going to the next Dufferin Peel Catholic District School Board meeting, and we're going to disrupt that meeting just like we disrupted the last one. And we're going to disrupt every single meeting until they will hear us, and until they will take their foot off of the necks of our Black children. So for those of you that aren't on Parents of Black Children's mailing list or Peel Black Collective's mailing list, please make sure that you add yourselves or reach out so that you can have this information. We need to be able to be back in touch when we talk about action. We're all gathered here today, and I think it has been extraordinarily empowering to hear, specifically from the young people. Tomorrow they can say, the activist said this. David Boswell hates police, right? They can't say that Idris was the one behind all of this. The students have spoken, and they deserve to be trusted and understood and supported, and they deserve justice. So all that
City said, please join us for the next action. We will make our presence felt at the Dufferin Peel Catholic District School Board meetings. And if they feel the need, they can call the cops on us again, and we'll come back again, and again, and again, and again.
I just want to thank you for offering your services. And there are community, so we have a small fund at Parents of Black Children, but there are other community organizations as well. But this is something that the school should be providing for you because they cause the harm. And I wanted to, I think it was Tia Duke. Yes, thank you for saying what you said. Because I was sitting here very quietly listening, and it's not lost on me that there's 6 Black girls up here who have taken the weight and the burden and the trauma and the violence on your shoulders. You've taken it on. 6 Black girls in a school of how many? But it's you 6 who are here, who are carrying that, who are sharing the story, who are talking about, dropping classes because you're afraid that you're not going to get a good grade because of the racism that the teacher displays. Nobody should, that's not how your educational journey should be. And this is not our issue to fight. This is 400 years of oppression that does not belong to us. And we push through it. You're here, we push through it because we love you and we're here for our children. But when someone asks that question, what's going to happen tomorrow? We have school, so am I right in thinking you are educators at the school? We're relying on you to support, to be in front of, and to defend our children. It is not enough to just be present in this space, to be here physically, to say nothing, to listen, thank you for being here, but that's not enough. When you have a principal that, say her name, Frances, what's the last name? Campisi, Frances Campisi. When you have a principal that is high on her power and her authority, that is running rampant, that is allowing anti-Black racism to permeate her school and her building, when you have children who are saying to you, I don't want to be in this school, I don't feel safe in this school, I'm being called a monkey. We hear from teachers all the time, especially in the Catholic boards. I love the children, they're like my own children. Would you accept that for your own kids? You would not. And if you would not accept that for your own kids, you should not be able to walk into that building tomorrow and stand in front of your class and teach a class with a free conscience while these girls have sat there and explained what they're feeling. You should be rallying your like-minded colleagues. You should be putting yourself in front of these girls and doing whatever you have to do, whether that's walking out, whatever that is, to support them and to anchor them and to be there for them, because as Black parents, we leave them at the school doors. And you take them and you take over. And we're trusting that they are safe within your schools, within your classrooms. And we know they are not, but we're trusting and we're hopeful that they are. So this is not just about the Black community. This is not our issue. It's not us in front of them, it's you. So we need you, your colleagues, to step up as well.
Thank you, Kenny. Yep. We have just two more comments, and we're going to direct you to the screen, and we're going to wrap up. So I know it's getting late for everybody. It's been a long, I think, important discourse that we've held here today. So just a couple more people to hear from, and then we're going to call it a night.
Hi, I'm Angela Glassell, and bravo to you guys for standing up and doing what you're doing. But from what I'm hearing is that the police here are still using the same loophole. Colorism, no matter what, they show up and they side with a color. It's usually theirs, okay? And what they do, they charge you at the party. They put you through hell, and then When you get out of the situation, it's over. But guess what? The person that started the whole thing walked away scotch-free. So they're doing the same thing over and over, and you gotta be very, okay? So they charge these young ladies because they want to take the heat off what that person did. She shouldn't have done what she did, okay? And so we're gonna charge you guys. So you're charged, you go through a whole bag of hell, and then when it's over, the judge will say, this is not right, no. And the case is dismissed, but guess what? That person walks scotch-free. That's the bottom line. That's how they've been doing it for a long time. And it's a loophole and nobody's addressing that. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Well, apparently I'm the last person to speak, but I want to say something to the parents and to you young ladies up there. I have a daughter who is also within your age bracket, 17, and she goes to one of the Catholic schools. And as a matter of fact, I have 3 daughters. But I always say to my children, and that's what I'm going to say to you, you girls are young. What we as a generation grew up and what we saw was still remnants of years of batters and bruises. You guys are at a different frontier, a different page. Please, move yourself forward and put yourselves in places of position that help to make decisions that will affect you and your children to come. Please. Politics is not for everybody, but there are places of influence and position that with young girls like you with good education and a good future towards you can move towards in position to help make policies, be a part of the decision and policy making procedures, right? That your children or your grandchildren will have less of this to face what you're going through. It's not going to be a walk in the park to get rid of what's happening. Generations have been trying. Generations have been trying, and we're still trying, and it's not going to be a walk in the park. Also to the parents, your children, fight with tooth and nail to make sure that your children don't get a criminal record. So with the girls that got arrested and charged in school, I would advise by whatever means necessary, and I will emphasize by whatever means necessary, those kids do not get a criminal record. Because that in itself is a bullseye to your forehead, right? So with these, I get passionate about it because I imagine my daughter being one of those. And God knows, just God knows, you know. So children, again, sorry to call you children, young girls, please, try your best. And continue to do well in school. I'm not trying to be a father here to all of you. I'm just trying to talk to you about how I talk to my children. Hold your head up. Try to be at somewhere where you can influence policymakers. Because we as a whole, our color is minority. We're already minority. In this part of Brampton, per se, we are minority. So being minority, our influence and our words can be heard through our actions. And if you can make the actions where it is in the policy making to come, we can do it. And parents, don't allow your children to get a criminal record. Please, fight it tooth and nail by whatever means necessary. Thank you.
Super Dave. Oh, got one more. All right. I was filled in for Dave for 2 seconds. Big shoes to fill.
Thank you. I just wanted to make a really quick comment as we're talking about police behavior. Is that also, and forgive me if this is very common knowledge, but when you have interactions with the healthcare system, to be very careful in those scenarios too, and to always get your health report after the interaction. Because we also know that doctors in those places are not neutral. And what is written down about you, especially after a police interaction, will probably be exactly what the police officer said. We had situations where in Mississauga where a woman was shot, and when she received, when she got her police report months later, the doctor had written self-inflicted gunshot wound. So I just wanted to put that there. I know we're talking about the disparity and the differences between the media reporting and the police reporting, but also the healthcare system to be aware of their reporting. That's it.
Thank you. I would say that we, of course, I wear many hats.